Welcome, everybody. Another episode of the BEST Sports Talk Network. Brian Lebel, I'm Harper Lebel. Glad to have you with us. Here in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the follow-up to the Super Bowl. The players have been in town. They had practices throughout the week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's when the install and the last portion of what you're going to be doing. We'll go into the teams in just a little bit. But if you're here in Atlanta right now, bring a jacket if you're coming. But one thing that you need to be aware of is there is plenty to do here. Brian, there's a few activities that I wanted you to make sure that you mention because some of the listeners right now and folks that are watching would like to know a little bit more about what we're experiencing here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean the Falcons aren't playing, but you definitely got a bunch of players from the Falcons downtown being a part of it. Guys like Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, Grady Jarrett's made an appearance. I'm sure there's gonna be many more as we get closer to kickoff and closer to the game. But,
I heard Austin Hooper on the radio today. He's had a great Pro Bowl game. He got a touchdown there, so there's definitely a lot of Falcons.
I mean, the fan experience, too, is something not to be missed. If you have an opportunity to go down there, just looking at all, because they got Hall of Fame bus, they got Super Bowl memorabilia, they got just a bunch of different stuff going on. There's so much to do down there right now, and it really is a really cool experience. There's a lot to take in.
Do you want to bring a big car and just park it right in the middle of the street so you're a big traffic incident?
In downtown Atlanta, probably not.
No.
I would say you do the opposite. As compact as you can be.
There are certain streets that are closed. Go to a map. If you have a live one that you have connected with your phone, check it out, especially the closer you get to where the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is. Traffic and closed streets and some of the other things that you would need to know, critical for your stay down there. You mentioned on the last show, the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yes.
There's certain other activities. Tell me what you do. If you're not really football related, you can still go get a bite to eat and hang out, go see a show. Aerosmith is playing at State Farm there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Bands everywhere.
Bands everywhere. The bar scenes and the food scenes, because there's so many people down there and so many different people experience it. There's a lot to do, and the energy is really great. I know that sounds kind of cliche and weird, but there's just so many people experiencing the city for the first time. They've never been down here. You got people from as far, obviously LA coming down to see the Rams. And then you got people from up north, Patriots fans. We got to kind of be nice to them because, they are going to help our city out a little bit with the money and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's really cool to see.
You have to be nice to them? Or you're going to choose to be nice to them?
You can be nice to their face, and then behind the back, you can, do whatever you want. The ones in the Brady jerseys, for sure.
Now, for those of you that don't know, they put 283 diamonds in their ring because of the 28-3 differential in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. So Brian remembers that a lot more than I do.
I try not to, but hey, it is what it is.
It's a fact.
It is what it is.
It's what they did. All right. All the activities are related, of course, around the game. And so we'll talk a little bit now about the game itself, key matchups, players that you will need to watch. If you're not really much of a football fan and you want to have something to talk about at the party that you're going to be going to or the people that you'll be around, hopefully some of what we go over here in the very, very near future will be critical for what you would need to know so that you can be involved in the conversation. Let's talk about the Patriots first. They're the favorites. They've been here so many times, not to Atlanta, but to the game itself, that this is a very comfortable experience. They know what they're doing. They know how to get it done. Coaching staff, players, everything about it is so professionally run. What impresses you most about the Patriots?
Well, I mean, it's just the fact that the experience kind of ties into how they do things. It's just I think Brady's a little more fired up this season, as you can see from some of his sound bites and some of the stuff he's doing, which is kind of scary because we've never really had that before.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's just real vanilla. You know what I mean? They're here. And Brady's point is we're still here because they haven't gone anywhere because this is the third Super Bowl in a row.
No surprise.
Yeah,
Guess what?
How many times in the last decade and 2 decades have they been here? And they're always here. And there isn't really a secret formula to it because if there was, there'd be every other team in the league would be copying it. So
their depth is something important. Running game. If Sony Michel doesn't have it, Burkhead.
They got Burkhead. They got James White. I mean, they can get Devlin, the fullback, involved. And they had a point today. He was talking to somebody media day. He thinks he could at this point right now today he could break his squat record of 670 pounds. And he thinks he could break his bench record too, 500. So, I mean, I think he's psyched. I think he's ready to go. But as a fullback, and this is a league where the fullback usage is dying. No one's really using the fullback as much anymore. But
unless it's 3rd and 1, and you have Gronk on the outside kicking out, and Devlin,
of course,
2 guys on the ground basically, and then
yeah.
Guess what? Open hole, Sony Michel, touchdown.
Yeah, and that's happened more than a few times this season, and I would not be surprised if it happened at least once in the Super Bowl. Would not be surprised for that, but it could be James White could score 3 touchdowns. You don't know. It's just they have so much depth. Rex Burkhead could come in. He had 2 touchdowns last week, and we didn't even talk about him. No one really even brought him up.
You got Sonny Michel on the sidelines and White, and then, different areas where they excel in the running game.
Absolutely.
Passing, Edelman. You've got Hogan, Cordero Patterson.
They use him
What
everywhere.
impresses you most about their ability to spread the ball around?
Well, it was against the Chiefs. It wasn't like 3rd and 5. They had 3rd and 10 and 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 12, and they could not. The Chiefs couldn't cover their guys one-on-one. They could not do it. And if you can't get pressure, because they couldn't really get consistent pressure, and if you sit back in zone, Brady's just going to pick you apart. So you got to pick your poison. I think a lot of the season we were wondering what's up with Gronk, because he's had injuries and the rumors that they were going to trade him and all this other stuff, and he showed up in the AFC Championship game when it counted. I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in the Super Bowl.
That 4th down play or late in the ball game, and
Absolutely.
we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
His ability to be a guy that you have to cover, but you can't cover. You put your best guy on him, you put your second best guy on him. He's still going to come. He's still going to come down with the football.
He's still going to get the football, and it's just time and time again. And you think every time it's the Patriots, you think they're down and out, and then they just come right back. That's what they keep doing. That's what Gronk did. So
offensive line's playing pretty good. I'm very impressed, and I've said this before. Your ability to take a guy like Bosa and company in San Diego, and you can't touch number 12.
Yeah.
You take Justin Houston and company in Kansas City, and you can't touch Brady. You take Ndamukong Suh. You take Aaron Donald. Now, we haven't seen this yet, but what do you think the offensive line has to do to keep those guys away from your franchise quarterback?
I think it's different because most teams, your pass rush guys, they get after the quarterback on the outside. You got your speed guys on the outside, but Aaron Donald's a speed guy on the inside.
Yeah.
And he's a freak. He had a picture he posted, I think it was on Instagram of him. He's just jacked head to toe. He's just ridiculously strong.
6'2", about 285 is what he's listed. He's probably closer to 295.
He's a lean looking 285, but he can still move his weight around.
He may not be able to squat 700 pounds, but he's not that far from it.
No, he can run a 40 like most linebackers.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So that's the part where it becomes difficult. And I think that's where I think the Patriots could use their running backs to try to slow him down. But at the same time, I think if you take them out of the passing game in that regard, that's where James Devlin might come in huge. You might see a lot of I-form sets or offset with 2 backs in the backfield where Devlin helps out the center, helps out the guard, or you have 2 or 3 guys focused on Aaron Donald, which, I mean, to be honest, that's what the Saints did, and it didn't really help that much in certain instances. So I think it's going to be a task, but if anyone can do it, it's the Patriots and their core.
Summarize the Patriot defense and their ability to make a very fluent Kansas City offense look bad, to make a just as fluent Phillip Rivers and San Diego's offense look like they don't know what they're doing. What do the Patriots do that impresses you defensively that makes you go, they're so dang good, it's going to be very difficult for the Rams to score?
Well, what's their slogan? Was it do your job?
Just do your job.
You got guys that they go in.
It's not just win, baby. It's do your job.
Yeah, they go in and they do their job. And because a lot of times you look at these, really good defenses like the Bears, they got Khalil Mack, they got a lot of these superstars, and you look at the same way, Bosa's a superstar, and you got a lot of superstars that the Chargers had and the Chiefs. They don't really have a lot of superstars on defense. A lot of times their superstars want too much money and they got to get rid of them, and that's what they consistently do. And you get a bunch of guys that just come in, they do their job, they do it well. I think when you have one of the best guys on the planet, if not the best guy on the planet, putting in your game plan and what you need to do in Bill Belichick, I think that helps a little bit, but it's just, there's nothing flashy about it. They get in, they get their job done. I mean, the Chiefs, I think there was 8 minutes left in the second quarter at home. AFC Championship game, number 1 offense in the league, and they have -2 total yards.
Yeah, very impressive.
And
what they were able to do.
Chargers they couldn't find the end zone. But the one time in the first half, and then even at the end of the game, they started putting up garbage time points. So, I mean, it's really impressive. Good teams.
I was impressed with Trey Flowers. I thought his ability to put pressure on almost by himself on several occasions in the Charger and the Chief game. And then Kyle Van Noy did a great job also of being a guy that would just, he was kind of like a spy on Mahomes, and he gets through the line of scrimmage and creates havoc when he's there in the backfield. Let's look at their secondary. Patrick Chung, McCourty, Gilmore, and then the rest of the guys, and they're going to rotate in. I would imagine they're going to play a lot of nickel. A lot of pressure on those guys because the Rams are it's like a spread offense from a collegiate standpoint, but the Patriots' ability to be able to shut that down in the first 2 games has impressed me to the point where I'm a believer in terms of the secondary is good.
Yeah.
They're solid. They do their job, and they're going to put you in a position where you can win the ball game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're gonna, what team would you want to play to prepare for the Rams? I'd probably say the Chiefs. I think that's a good stepping stone. I think that's the perfect team to play. It may be the other way around if you want to play the Rams to prepare for the Chiefs, but I mean, we saw the shootout they had. You know, that Monday night game where everyone was freaking out. Very similar offenses. Between Mahomes and Goff and the way they like to spread the ball around, different guys, get guys in space, Cooks on screens, Tyreek Hill on screens, running backs on screens, lots of stuff like that. And, I mean, it was like it didn't even phase them. In the first half, they weren't even phased. Now, they kind of fell apart at the fourth quarter, and I think when it's – how cold was it there? What, like 10 degrees maybe? Maybe a little colder than that in Kansas City?
Wind chill was in the single digits at some point.
So, I mean, that might slow you down, but – other than that fourth quarter, they looked phenomenal against the Chiefs, and Brady showed that he could still get it done.
Yeah.
He did it at the end of the game. He did it in overtime. So I don't know. It's really tough. It's really tough to go against these guys and to think that they're going to lose.
And even though he's done it 8 times before, this is his 9th. He looked maybe not as excited as the first, but he was definitely into it.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Rams and the preparation for the Patriots. Let's break this down on the Rams side. Not many people give them a whole lot of credit for being a great team, but they're here and they've arrived, and I think they had some weaknesses that even though they were exposed in those, they still belong in the Super Bowl because of the great job that they had. Let's look at the Rams offense briefly. What do you think that they've got to do? Jared Goff, let's start with him. What type of game does he need to have?
Well, I don't think he needs to come out and play like Superman. I think he needs to kind of relax and just play mistake-free football, which he basically did. I mean, that interception wasn't on him. That was on Gurley. He played mistake-free football. He didn't lose the game. The defense showed up there, Donald and Sue and all them, when they had to. I mean, they made a couple of really crucial stops in the red zone. I think if they can repeat that, all he has to do is get the ball to his guys, and I think they'll be okay.
Now, they had a slow start against the
Yeah,
Saints.
yeah.
They struggled, and the announcers, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, made mention of it all throughout the first half. The biggest play so far is 9 yards. The biggest play is 12 yards.
Yes.
If he has a slow start, is that going to be something that, again, especially against the Patriots, is going to be something that they won't be able to overcome?
Well, I don't think the Patriots are going to come away with 6 points in 2 red zone trips. If it starts out the same way, I think the Patriots find a way. They're so good at making you pay for your mistakes. That's why I think he needs to play mistake-free football, is because it's not just that they can do it themselves. It's when you make a mistake, then it's almost like a mental thing. You know what I mean? You're like, oh God, here comes Brady. You know, here comes Gronk, and they only got to go 30 yards or whatever it is, and you're immediately behind the 8 ball. And I don't see a similar start to the game, because the Saints very easily could have been up 21-24 to nothing, and they weren't. It was only 13-0. Now they came back from that, but if you give the Patriots a chance to go up by that score, I think they're going to do it. So.
Well, you mentioned the Saints in the early on. You had 78,000 people, probably, standing room only there in New Orleans, and every last one of them was quiet to where you could hear a pin drop when Drew Brees had the ball.
Yeah.
But what did they do when the Rams got it? They made as much noise. That same audience that was as quiet as could be, we're all beating each other up to make more noise than the next guy.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that in the same way. There are going to be people that they're going to be pulling for you. You're going to have 10, 20,000 people that are Rams fans, and 10 or 20 that are obviously there, the season ticket holders and folks that win the lottery. But you've got about 50 in the middle that are either way just want to see a great game. So I think the noise factor isn't going to be anywhere near as much of a problem as it was for the Rams when they were in New Orleans.
Well, you got to think of it this way: do the Falcons fans want the Patriots to win? Do you really want them to come to Atlanta?
That'd be no.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a sense of appreciation from Falcons fans after what the Rams were able to just do to the Saints?
I've got 283 reasons why I don't like the Patriots,
That's
and it's in their championship ring, every one of those diamonds.
I don't see why there's a single person in Atlanta that would not want the Rams to win.
However, but you've got a lot of people from Atlanta that aren't going to be at the game, because you're going to have corporate folks from all over the country that are flying in, and they're going to take those seats.
Absolutely.
Running game. One thing for me, if you're watching the game, and you may see this where Todd Gurley's out, I think C.J. Anderson may be a guy that could be a difference maker. Todd Gurley's played a little bit nervous, and some maybe I'm using the wrong word right now, but he hasn't been an MVP candidate in some of the playoff games that they've had, not only this year, but last year.
Yeah.
So CJ is the guy that came in 500 yards in 3 games, a big catch or two, gets you down the field. He may not always get that first down for you, but he's sure going to make it as close as you possibly can. Yeah. Talk about the difference that he might make.
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, Gurley's going to get off to a hot start. That's what you want. He's arguably the top. He's top 2 or 3 running backs in the league right now. With Le'Veon Bell's holdout and him not playing this year, I think he's probably the best, and I think the stats and his early season rankings show that. I don't think the Rams have been as good since he got hurt, and since Cooper Kupp got hurt, their offense fell off a good bit. He was a huge part of their offense, and he took a lot of pressure off Cook, and Robert Woods has had to step up, and Higbee's had to step up, and I think it's kind of taken some pressure off Gurley. But there were certain games this year where he was getting 30, 40 carries. He was the workhorse. They gave him the ball.
And he's got 1,500 yards. I mean, he's a legitimate MVP candidate. But if he doesn't play well, that's the issue. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago against the Saints, he was on the sideline for most of the game, and CJ was the guy that was in there making big plays.
I think one thing that McVay's going to have to do is you just get him a big play early. Whether it's a screen, a trick play, something, what is it that they would say, you get a seal here, and an alley here, and you get the ability to get him in space. I think if he can see a hole, and I think if he gets going, and I think if he can finally, you know what I mean? Because he hasn't a big run in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's been a while.
Right.
And
he had about an 8-yard touchdown against the Saints, but then he didn't play much after that.
I mean, his first 2 carries were negative yards. So, I mean, he had 4 carries for 10 yards. He's got an 8-yarder. So, I mean, it wasn't a good day, and I don't think he got a chance to get back in and prove himself because Anderson took over the workload in the entire second half. I think it's just going to be played by ear. Obviously, C.J. Anderson has proven he's capable over the last 2 games, more than capable.
Yeah.
He played very well. I think I was more impressed by the Cowboys game because the Cowboys defensively are a much better team, especially in the front seven. Obviously you want Gurley to play really well, but if C.J. Anderson comes in, he can play really well. I think you're going to take either or.
C.J. Anderson was on the street for not a very long period of time, but the Raiders let him go. He was with the Carolina Panthers. This is his 3rd team in the same year, and now he's playing in the Super Bowl. So good for him if he's able to come in. But I'll tell you one thing in particular. One thing. If Todd Gurley does have a big play like what Brian just mentioned, I'm going to guarantee you right now, every one of those offensive linemen are going to be amped like they haven't been in several weeks. Yeah. That's going to make a big difference for them. They're going to block better. They destroyed the defensive line from the Dallas Cowboys in the front seven. There were guys all over the place that didn't get a hand on C.J. Anderson or on Gurley. So you get that same type of confidence in the offensive line. I think that could bode very well for the Rams. Real quick, let's go over their receivers. I love the ability for them to run the jet screen. I think it's a portion of the spread type offense that you see in college. But when you throw it in and you have to cover it, Belichick has to spend some time going over that as a possible option. I think that there's nobody else in the world, I agree with you, that would have that team better prepared than what Bill Belichick would do. But it is a portion that they don't see every day. But the receivers themselves, go over what you think. What impresses you about the Ram receivers?
Well, I mean, they do everything. Cooks can play underneath. He can also go down the field. The tight ends are getting more involved now, which is something they really didn't do early in the season. You didn't see a whole lot of action from the tight ends, which I mean, McVay's they're adapting. They're changing it up. And I think for a young quarterback like Jared Goff, you get the tight ends involved. That's huge. Well,
Higbee, I think, had a great game, and I think he was a guy that you could rely on and go to, and Goff did, and that made a big difference for the Rams offense. All right, we've talked about the Rams offense. Now let's go, obviously, on the defensive side. Do we go any further than just starting with middle and the end is Aaron Donald? Is there anybody else that we need to talk about?
I mean,
or is it just him against the Patriots?
It's seemingly that you would look on certain Sundays and certain games that they don't need anyone else, just because he can ruin an entire offense just by himself. Because if you get pressure up the middle, that's you're instantly affecting the quarterback, the running back, the ability to do certain things in the run game and play action, and he's just he tears it up. But I mean, you want some of these other guys to get involved, right? You want Sue, and you want Fowler, and you want Talib to make some plays.
Littleton?
Mark Barron's going to be huge because if they can't get pressure and Barron gets caught in a lot of situations with Gronk, I don't think that bodes well for the Rams, to be fair, though.
It doesn't bode well for anyone in the league.
I don't think it would bode well for anybody, but I think there's a lot of pressure on Aaron Donald to play really well, and I don't think he's done it. I mean, he hasn't done it on this stage. You know what I mean? No one on the Rams really has, if you take away Cooks and Talib. And
he didn't really have much exposure at Pitt when he was there. So this is huge for him. This is a breakout game. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who's been considered, at least in my opinion, as the best defensive lineman in the game.
Might be the MVP. I mean, this year, you could argue.
Isn't that interesting that you're talking about a defensive lineman? I mean, Reggie White maybe, or LT would be those other guys that you go, oh, yeah, absolutely, we consider that. But big paydays in the future if he has a great game. Grady Jarrett tied Reggie White's record a couple years ago with 3 sacks. If Aaron Donald gets 3 or 4, again, he'll be. This is This is stuff you talk about. This is where legends are made.
Yeah.
And all the advertisements go over that. The secondary. You got Wade Phillips, who's in charge of trying to stop Tom Brady, number 12. And by the way, if Brady goes down, who's going to go in? Does anybody in their right mind right now know exactly who the backup quarterback is for the New England Patriots? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? No, he's not there anymore. Is it Matt Castle?
No.
Drew Bledsoe? No, that was years ago. Scott Zolak? Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer is the guy who would come in if Brady, even for one single play, who would have to go out. Now, if Tom's helmet comes off and you have to go out for a play, then Brian Hoyer will get a chance to play in the Super Bowl.
I would.
How do you stop number 12?
I mean, there's been teams asking that same question for 20 years.
Well, Wade Phillips has a lot of silver hair, so he's got to figure out a way. What do you think he's going to do?
I mean, it's
they're a zone defense. Are they going to play a lot of zone, or are they going to mix it up and play a little bit different coverage to try to fake out number 12, as if you can do that?
It's the Super Bowl, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see some wrinkles from McVay and Phillips in what they try to do. Maybe try to get him uncomfortable. Maybe try to get the ball. I mean, in a perfect world, you just get to the quarterback every time. I mean, if you have Aaron Donald, a guy like that can do that.
You don't have to change your defense if you put pressure up the middle.
Right.
If Donald and Sue or Brockers or anybody else, if they don't have to blitz and you make Tom Brady throw quickly, I think that would be – you don't have to change your defense. Now you're forcing Tom to throw early, and the defensive backs, the linebackers would know that. Yeah. They'll pounce on the routes a lot earlier. It could create some havoc.
Now, what we could end up seeing is if they double Donald or even triple team him sometimes with the running back.
The Saints did that. They tripled him.
Sue and Brockers and Fowler, they're gonna have to step up. They're gonna have to. They have no choice because you get one-on-ones. You know, as if you're a defensive lineman, that's your dream. Have a guy like Aaron Donald in the middle, and there's only one guy on you. And if they can't step up, I think that could be an issue. They did pretty well against the Saints when Donald was neutralized, and even when they double and triple the team, sometimes he wasn't. So that helps out a little bit. But I think we might see something like that. Wouldn't be surprised if you see a guy like Aaron Donald drop back in coverage once or twice, maybe just to throw him off.
Just to do it, and bring a linebacker from way outside, or maybe possible safety or corner blitz. It happens, and it would be unusual. The Rams don't really show that a lot. Yeah. But I think McVay's ability to go, what can we do that they wouldn't expect?
That's
and his openness to do that. And the reason I say that is because of the punt that the Rams had when they were down by 13 points. I didn't think they were going to even come close to running anything like that, but his confidence in the team to be able to do that, it got him back in the ball game. Everybody on the sideline was going nuts, and it really did make a difference for the Rams, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, well, they've been making key special teams plays all season. Their special teams unit's been very underrated because of how good their defense is and how good their offense has been.
I like Greg DeLeg at 55, 60 yards. That ball that he kicked the field goal to win the ball game,
maybe from 70.
Easily.
Maybe from 70. He drilled it. He drilled it. He ice in his veins too because he hit the game tying and then game winning kick back to back. Didn't even care.
And unlike a Chicago Bears kicker, you call a timeout, you try to ice him. He didn't care. He still nailed it.
Yeah,
and he's indoors.
And it's
now
really
Gronkowski. I'm telling you what, just as good. I like his ability to win the ball game when you need to, and make his own legend as opposed to what Adam Vinatieri did when he was with the club. All right, final thought. Who do you like, and who's going to win the ball game, and why?
I think the Patriots, and I think because they're going to control the line of scrimmage. I think there's no one that can stop Gronk. Even if Brady doesn't have a lot of time, he has the ability to just throw it up and he can come down with the football. We've seen it time in, time out, and I don't think that the Rams are going to be able to repeat kind of their second half performance against the Saints, which they need to if they want to win. If they come out playing like they did in the first half, I think they can. This could be an ugly game. It could get out of hand.
We haven't had a lot of blowouts. We've had some close games. We've had a couple last year or 2 years ago was the first one to go to overtime.
Yeah.
So you got the Patriots.
I got the Patriots.
Bottom line. Yes. Final answer, Regis?
Patriots, yeah.
I'm going to take the Rams. Why? Not because I'm just going opposite him.
Yeah.
Because of Philadelphia and because of New York and New York. Okay? They're not undefeated. You've got San Francisco's never lost. Pittsburgh, I think, has only lost once. Yeah. You got a couple of teams that have great Super Bowl records, but 5-3, it's better than average. I get that. Yeah. I just think that the Rams, at one point in the game or another, one critical point, they're going to go, we have a chance to make our own history for ourselves and be a part of that group that has come from a very rare NFC lineup that has the ability to put the Patriots in a position where they've got to do something unusual.
Well, they own one too, right? 17 years to the day it'll be since Rams Patriots round 1. This is round 2. They still owe them for that.
They sure do.
Yeah.
But they were St. Louis Rams back in those days. So I take the Rams, you take the Patriots. We need somebody to come in here and kind of settle the score, who we think's going to do it. I can't think of anybody. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Daniel, come on in. Our roadie, Dan the man, is going to come in right now. Come on, Daniel.
Come on, buddy. Here, come on.
All right. Super Bowl is on the line. Take a look at the camera right there. Tell us who's going to win and why.
I think the Patriots are going to win because they've gone to the past 3 Super Bowls. So I'm pretty confident in them.
Okay, who's going to win the game for them? Who's going to be the big playmaker?
Gronk.
It's going to be Gronk.
Yeah,
All right,
I can see
that's
it
from the
there.
8-year-old right there. Brady was already won his first Super Bowl before he was even born.
Wasn't
All
even
right,
born yet. Yeah.
all right, there you got it. Hey, Brian's Entertainment Sports Talk, BEST. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Follow us, give us a like, and we appreciate as much as anything you sticking with us. We'll have some more very soon, and we'll be back after this.